Everyone knows what martial arts is. It's a kind of thing you must have seen at least once in movies or manhwas, but martial arts is quite different for our main character because he's the main character of his own imagination. Plus, he is a supreme martial master. A lot of martial masters start rushing toward our main character who is standing still. Our main character pulls up one of his hand and he utters a word, summon. A summoning circle forms on the ground he is currently standing on right now. A crack appears on the ground and then a skeleton hand pops out of it, which is followed by the appearance of a lot of skeleton soldiers. The martial masters become shocked as they are seeing skeletons for the first time, but they don't have much time to relax and they start clashing with the skeletons. The martial masters are having a difficult time against the skeletons, but they are somehow managing to block or dodge their attacks. Our main character smirks and he performs another big summoning magic. This time, a whole mountain range gets blasted off and the martial masters become alerted. A cursed bone dragon type monster appears out of the smoke, and it gives out a loud roar, putting more stress on the already exhausted martial masters. The martial masters have completely lost all of their will to fight. Our main character is standing still and he tells them that he is a martial master, but he don't care about the martial techniques or morals as his imagination is his biggest power. Back in the past, near southern edge mountain of Shanxi province, a white-haired martial artist is on edge. A lot of martial artists approach him. This white-haired guy is the young cult leader and one of the martial artists tells him that his time is up and he should give up. The young cult leader grins his teeth and he informs them he was already aware of a force who wanted to get rid of him, but he never thought it will be them. These martial artists are called the Vicious Blood Squad and they have spent the longest time with the young cult leader. One of the female martial artists removes her mask. She informs him that the current demonic cult needs a change, and for that change, the Vicious Blood Squad made up their minds to kill him while holding back their tears. The young cult leader says that they just want to use that change as a reason to get rid of him, and their pledge of loyalty to him were just empty words in the face of power. The female martial artist pulls up her sword and she tells him to think whatever he wants because he's going to die pretty soon. The father of the white-haired boy was the leader of the demonic cult and he is about to show them that the apples don't fall far from the tree. His name is Chun Wu Baek. He is 17 years old plus he is the demonic cult's young leader. He tells them to bring it on as he is prepared to make his last stand right here. But out of nowhere someone falls on him from the sky, breaking his neck with a crackling sound in the process. This person is a little bit exhausted as his ass is hurting a lot after the impact. The shirtless man asks them about where he is right now. We get a flashback of how this person ended up here. He was a normal human in a normal world where he completed his 2 years of military service. After that, he prepared 2 years for the teacher's certification examination. Finally, 28 years old Kim Sojun passed the teacher's certification examination. He was quite happy, but in reality, he didn't intend to study education, as his only reason to do it was to secure stable and decent earning source. But in the future, he had not even gathered enough money to afford a house. There is still a way left for him to multiply his income 100-folds, and that is by investing his money in the stocks and crypto. But he is unlucky in that field as well because he suffered a loss of over 140 million yen. Tears of blood start coming out of his eyes as his entire assets just evaporated. After some days, a bus arrives on a historical site with a lot of students. One of the teachers tells them to hurry up and form a line so they can take a look inside the royal tomb. The female teacher looks at Kim Sojun, who is busy in his mobile. The female teacher requests him if he can lead the kids because she has a bit of a cold, so she can't guide them properly. But she becomes a bit shocked after watching the face of Sojun. He is in a bad state as he's repeatedly abusing while staring at his mobile. The teacher starts leading the students by herself as Sojun is not in the right mind right now. Inside the tomb, Sojun is thinking of dying. Plus, he has to take care of kids in this bad situation, which is putting more strain on his little brain. All of a sudden, he spots a student going into the restricted area. Sojun couldn't see the face of the student because it was dark, but judging from his uniform, he must be from their school. Sojun signs to himself and he starts heading toward the restricted area as well. He is abusing the high schoolers as they don't even give him time to be sad. Sojun opens the restricted door, but for some reason his expression changes drastically. Unlike the main building, this part of the tomb is quite old and it looks like it can fall at any time. But he is still confused as this kind of space was not present before in the tomb. He spots the student turning a corner. He rushes toward the student to stop him. He tells the student that he cannot go any further as this is a restricted area. This kid is 18 years old and his name is Yu Dokwa. Sojun knew about this kid and he asks him why a kid who is usually quiet doing something so out of place. Dokwa tells Sojun to hurry up and leave this place, and if he stays in this place for a bit longer, he can fall under a terrible curse. Sojun sighs to himself as this brat is telling him what to do. Sojun tells him that there is nothing such as curses and he should quietly follow him back. But all of a sudden, he spots a lot of gold coins near them. The gold coins are shining in the darkness, illuminating the whole area. Sojun is not sure how and why there are so many gold coins in this restricted area. Without thinking much, he starts heading toward the gold coins. He bites one of the gold coins to check whether they are real or not. He comes to a realization that they are all coins made up of pure gold. Dokwa picks up a gold coin to examine it. After a little bit of examination, he can see some ghostly figures around the coin. He soon realizes that there are ominous souls dwelling in these gold coins. He looks at Sojun to tell him something, but he stops after watching his condition. Sojun is laughing non-stop like a madman. Sojun tells Dokwa that they live in a society where something like social mobility is impossible. Sojun puts the gold coin in his pocket. Sojun undresses his shirt while saying that he was thinking the heavens have already abandoned him. Then he shoves as much gold coins into it as he can while saying he is not an idiot who will lose this opportunity. He then starts shoving more gold coins into the already filled shirt. Dokwa warns him that he will be cursed at this rate. But Sojun keeps on collecting gold coins by saying that his life is already hell. But all of a sudden, a big crack appears in the ground below them. The ground shatters and both of them fall through the hole. Sojun is cursing the crack as it could have appeared after he was gone with the gold coins. Out of nowhere, he hears a voice stating that the one who disturbed this king's rest deserves to be cursed. Sojun will be forced to tread through this world, face trials, and stay among the dead for the rest of his life. The hands of Sojun start shrinking for some reason. He becomes more afraid after watching his body's abnormal growth, and he starts screaming out loudly. A notification window pops up which informs him that he has been awakened as a player. He acquired a Necromancer trait and a skeleton creation skill. The notification further informs him that the first skeleton can only be summoned once he personally kills the target. He then falls on the young cult leader, Chun Woo Baek, cracking his neck in the process. Sojun is feeling some pain in his ass after his landing, and he feels like his pants are a bit loose for some reason. His hands have strangely grown smaller as well. It takes him no time to presume that he has become younger after the fall, but he is a bit confused to see the masked man in front of him. They also have some weird expressions on their faces for some reason. Then he spots a dead guy lying right next to him. There is a complete silence in the surroundings because a young cult leader with a bright future just died like that. Sojun makes a weird face and he just realized that maybe he is responsible for the death of this honest young man. Soon he gets a notification that he can summon the person he just killed as a skeleton underling, and a green circle appears on the dead body of Chun Woo Baek. Out of nowhere, the female martial artist tries to kill him and he barely manages to dodge her attack. The female martial artist orders others to kill Sojun because they cannot keep any witnesses alive. Sojun is angry at them for attacking him out of nowhere. Then he realizes maybe they are angry because he killed one of their colleagues. Sojun tries to talk reason with them by saying that they should calm down as it was an accident. But words don't work on them and he starts running away from them. On his way, he falls down after getting tripped. Sojun gets stabbed in his shoulder with a sword. He cannot bear the pain any longer and he starts screaming out loud like a kid. The female martial artist informs him that it is his reward for killing the young lord in their stead, and she will send him to the afterlife with the most painful method. The pain is getting worse by every second and he can die at any given moment. All of a sudden, he gets flashbacks of the hard work he did in his last life. He has not even enjoyed his gold coins yet and he is going to die in this forest like a nobody. A notification window pops up in front of him which informs him he can summon his first skeleton. Sojun, in a moment of despair, screams out loud to summon the skeleton. He gets surrounded by a big miasma wave, and the martial artists get pushed back from him. It is his first summon, and it can use a fraction of its previous life abilities, plus the summoned skeleton will share a fraction of its abilities with the summoner. With that said, the dead body of Chun-Woo Baek starts levitating in the air. Even the other martial artists are in awe as they can see their dead young lord coming back to life. Chun-Woo Baek stands on his ground and his neck gets healed. The martial artists still can't believe that a dead person just came back to life after getting his neck completely crushed. The skin of the young cult leader starts shedding on its own. Pieces of his face start dropping on the ground like raw meat. The martial artists are becoming more afraid with these supernatural stuff happening in front of them. After some time, his skin completely gets removed until only a skeleton is remaining. The skeleton gives out a loud shriek and he gets powered up. The morale of martial artists is now hitting rock bottom and they are barely holding on. One of the martial artists panics and he starts rushing toward the skeleton soldier. The female martial artist tells him to stop, but it is already too late as the skeleton cuts him into two pieces with a single sword/slash attack. The skeleton is beaming with an evil energy and he stands on guard in front of Sojun. A notification pops up which informs him that he succeeded in summoning the first skeleton soldier and he can now give any order to him. Sojun becomes happy after reading the notification and he gets up while bearing the pain from the sword stab. Sojun, while crying from pain, orders the skeleton soldier to kill all of the bastards in front of him. Sojun remembers in his childhood he got up to give a speech in the class about his dreams. He told everyone that his dream is to become a rich man and live a comfortable life without working. It was a dream that he carried since his childhood, and to make that dream come true, he worked tirelessly. Although it was a bit different from what he had in mind, but in the end, when his dream was about to become true, he fell through that crack in the old tomb. In the present, everything is looking calm, but then a big evil energy wave appears on the mountain. This energy is being emitted by the skeleton soldier. He got too much pumped up after hearing his first order and he keeps on giving out loud screams. He then jumps toward the group of martial artists. The skeleton soldier cuts up one of them with ease. He leaps toward another martial artist who cannot move from his place because he's too afraid. The skeleton soldier pulls up his sword to finish him in one swing as well. His blood splatters all around the place, making other martial artists more afraid. The female martial artist has some sanity left, so she orders them to stop panicking and get in position to attack first. On the other side, Sojun cannot completely grasp the ongoing situation. The female martial artist tells her fellow men to cut down all the limbs of the skeleton so he cannot move. She further informs her companions that a mere skeleton cannot have inner energy, and his recent attacks were just random sword techniques. After hearing all of these words like sword techniques, inner energy, and young cult leader, Sojun comes to a realization that he has been reincarnated into a world of martial arts. The skeleton soldier laughs in a demonic manner. Most of the martial artists are too afraid and they start trembling with fear. The female martial artist is thinking that all of his comrades are a bunch of pathetic weaklings, so she has no other choice but to leap toward the skeleton soldier on her own. She yells out loud that she will be the one to take his head. She performs a thrust attack which gets blocked by the skeleton soldier. She tries her best to move her sword, but the force behind the skeleton soldier is too massive, so she can't move his sword on her own. She is barely holding on to her sword. After deflecting her attack, the skeleton soldier gets in position to stab her with the sword. He lunges toward her without giving her much time to retaliate, and he successfully manages to stab her with the sword. The female martial artist drops dead on the ground, and the skeleton soldier once again starts making those demonic voices. The other martial artists are afraid beyond belief, but they have no other choice but to kill the young cult leader right here, so they jump at him in unison. The skeleton soldier easily gets rid of most of them, but one of them lunges toward the skeleton soldier. He finally manages to stab the skeleton soldier from behind, but later, to his surprise, the skeleton soldier had no effect of the stab attack, and he looks back at him. He then cuts the martial artist into two pieces with a single slash attack. Another martial artist stabs him, but he gets both of his arms chopped off. He gets stabbed by a few more martial artists, but nothing seems to be working on him. and he slashes both of them in a single swing. He pulls out all of the swords stabbed in his body, and he throws them away. Kim Sojun, who was watching all of it, is both amazed and afraid. All martial artists are lying dead on the ground while the skeleton soldier is laughing non-stop in a demonic manner. This is the first slaughter Sojun has seen in his life, and it happened because he ordered the skeleton soldier to do it. But he had no other choice. All of a sudden, he feels more pain in his shoulder. He starts stumbling away from the battlefield as more enemies can pop out at any time. Out of nowhere, he spots the bag of gold lying nearby. But he remembers it is the same gold coins bag which got him into this situation. He starts checking if all coins are inside because he went through a lot of trouble for this bag. After looking through the bag, he looks at his own reflection in the water. Now he is sure that he really became younger, and he is now 16 years old. The view of the lake is quite captivating, so he stares at it for a bit longer. He gets his money bag up on his shoulder. As long as he has his money, he don't care even if this place is hell. He then starts moving away from the battlefield carrying his bag full of gold coins. After some time at the demonic cult's Kingseeker Pavilion, someone reports to an old man that the Blood Wolf squad was massacred. He asks her again if it is true that they were all killed. The female messenger replies with a yes. The old man starts laughing out loud like a madman. The whole pavilion starts brimming with martial energy. The old man orders the girl to head towards the central plains. The girl obliges to the request of the old man without any question. After some days at the East Lake Inn, two people are drinking wine and chatting with each other. The fat man asks the other person that he is quite happy and if something good happened recently. The person replies by saying that these days he just finds living to be so much fun. He further informs the fat man that there are rumors about the appearance of a divine star. The fat man asks him if he is talking about the Little Moonstorm sword, but the other person corrects him by saying that Little Moonstorm sword is someone from the past and the alias of this new person is King. The alias is kind of a nickname in the martial arts world, and it is mainly named after weapons, appearance, or the martial arts used by the owner of the nickname. Therefore, there has never been a single case of someone among the newcomers of Murim having the alias of the King. The person further states that everyone wants to see him because he is the Murim's new star and a king. At the same time, someone steps down from the stairs and everyone starts looking at him in awe and wonder. All people present in the hall start screaming that the king is here. The fat man looks at him, wondering how he can be the king. The king points at something and he orders the innkeeper to bring that thing to him. Everyone is wondering what the king ordered her to bring. The innkeeper hands over a golden bell to him and he starts ringing it non-stop. Everyone becomes happy with joy and they start cheering for the king. The person tells the fat man that when the king rings the bell, all the food here becomes free as the golden king will pay for everyone. With that said, everyone starts praising the golden king for his big heart. This golden king turns out to be Kim Sojun, who seems to have gotten a lot of weight. It has been 3 weeks since he came to this village. As he predicted, this place is none other than the world of martial arts. However, it does not matter to him anymore as he has his golden coins, which can be used to live a luxurious life. As long as he has gold, every problem in the world can be easily solved. While he is drinking, someone throws a bottle of water at him. The whole atmosphere becomes a bit grim, but he keeps on drinking the wine while he gets surrounded by the thugs. One of the thugs asks him if he is the infamous Golden King. This person is called Festive, and he is from the Scholar's gang bandit group. He further tells him to hand over everything to him unless he wants to die. Kim Sojun drinks his wine and he gives off an evil smile to Festive. Festive puts his sword next to Sojun and he asks him if he can't read the room. Sojun is not fazed by it and he keeps on smiling. The waiter comes up and he apologizes in his stead and he further says that he will bring him to another place so he doesn't disturb him. Festive says it's too late because once he has drawn his blade, the whole place must be stained with blood. The waiter starts pushing away Festive and he apologizes to Sojun for the interference. The waiter warns Festive to run away as it's becoming really frustrating. Festive becomes angry and he pushes away the waiter. Sojun says that martial world is really interesting. Their booze is good and these kinds of events are quite entertaining. Sojun warns him to listen to the waiter and get away because this will be the last chance he can give him. Festive is quite cocky and stubborn, so he discards his warning. A crack starts appearing in the ceiling and the skeleton soldier appears out of it after destroying the ceiling. The skeleton is chanting a single word, brain, again and again. Sojun puts his hand on the soldier of the skeleton soldiers and he orders him to not kill Festive because he's just a small-time thug. He changes his expression and orders him to beat the thugs to a pulp in exchange for their life. Without wasting any time, the skeleton soldier leaps toward the thugs. He then starts smacking the thugs left and right while Sojun is enjoying his drink. Sojun had enough fun, so he goes away after giving some gold coins to the innkeeper for food and repairs. Sojun heads toward his bedroom to retire for the night while a new customer arrives outside the inn. This customer turns out to be 16 years old Dan Sek-kyung, who is the eldest daughter of Gansu's Dan clan. She makes her way to the Eastern Lake Inn, but when she opens the door of the inn, she finds out a lot of unconscious bandits laying around the floor. She asks the waiter about what is going on. The waiter apologizes to her for the inconvenience because there was an argument between the guests just like a little earlier. He mockingly says that it is a common occurrence in the murim. She is thinking that these bandits look like idlers who get into fights after having too much drinks. Plus, it is the direction where academy students pass by, so they must have gotten beaten up by a student. She asks the waiter for a dorm and the waiter buckles up to escort her. All of a sudden, he recognizes the pattern of an insignia hanging from her waist. Dan Sek-kyung asks him why he is staring at her like that. The waiter informs her that one of their guests was wearing the same pattern as her. Meanwhile, in the bedroom of Sojun, he is very happy after watching the bandits get wrecked. The skeleton soldier has the same pattern cloak as Dan Sek-kyung. Meanwhile, Sojun is busy complimenting the skeleton soldier for his great victory. He talks about the curse he got while traversing to this world with his skeleton. But all of a sudden, a system message pops up which says it has heard about this before. Sojun is confused as to what the system wants to say. The system is shocked to know that Sojun is not a resident of this world and he was sent here after getting cursed. Sojun asks him what he is talking about, and the system explains that according to Project Ordeal, guests who aren't invited to this world must return to their own world safely. Without explaining much, the system starts initiating adaptation stages for Project Homecoming. Sojun is on stage 1 of Project Homecoming, and he needs to enter the Venerable Martial Academy. System further asks him if he wants to accept this quest or not. At the same time, Dan is explaining the details about her insignia, which is the pattern of students accepted in the Venerable Martial Academy. Every student admitted in the Venerable Martial Academy must wear this insignia. The waiter thinks it is quite cool because he heard that Venerable Martial Academy is the biggest and most famous school in Murim. It's an institution where every martial clan dreams of sending their young prodigies for education. Dan is thinking that maybe she can depart together with the student who dealt with all of these thugs. She don't know which clan he belongs to, but since he spared these idlers, he must be someone good-natured and upright. Meanwhile, on the other side, the so-called upright student refuses to do the quest. He don't needs to go to troublesome places as he has all the gold needed for a comfortable life. He gets on his bed to go to sleep, but the quest confirmation window is still hanging on in front of him. All of a sudden, quest window vanishes after becoming glitchy and a lot of warning messages pop up in front of him. Sojun wakes up with the whole room filled with penalty messages. The system informs him that the curse of the dead has been activated because he rejected the quest. All of a sudden, he feels a lot of pain in his hands. The skin on his hands seems to be shedding on its own. He screams out loud in pain while the system repeats its word that the one who disturbed the king's rest deserves to be cursed. He then falls down on the ground. After some time, he makes his way up to the mirror. When he looks at the mirror, he sees half of his body turned into a skeleton. And now, according to the curse, he will be forced to stay among the dead for the rest of his life. Sojun still can't believe his whole life got ruined in a single night. The job penalty, Curse of the Dead, is still active. The system again asks him if he wants to accept the job quest of joining the Venerable Martial Academy. Sojun yells at the system that he don't give a crap about this martial academy or whatnot. He just wants to be turned back to normal. The system informs him that the penalty will be cancelled if he clears the first limited quest. Now, Sojun is left with no other choice, so he accepts the quest. With that said, the quest Homecoming starts, and he is tasked with meeting the noble person on the inn's first floor. The next morning, Dan Sek-kyung comes out of her room and she prepares for her departure. As she is about to leave, she spots Sojun and the skeleton soldier coming downstairs. Sojun is wearing the emblem of the Venerable Martial Academy, which makes her think that he is the person who beated those bandits the previous night. While Sojun is thinking how he can know who this noble person is, who he is supposed to meet today, Sojun comes to a halt after spotting her. Dan introduces herself as Sekyung from Dan Clan. Sojun continues on staring her without replying back to her. Sojun is thinking that this 16-year-old kid is a noble brat while he is a 31 years old, but his age has reversed to 16 years old. Sekyung breaks the silence as she apologizes to Sojun for stepping out of line. She further elaborates that she was glad after knowing that the person who beated those thugs last night was someone from her academy. At the same time, the second quest of Homecoming completes after Sojun meets her, and his new quest is to follow the noble person to the Venerable Martial Academy. An additional reward of a skeleton slot will be given to him when the affinity level reaches 100. Sojun is thinking that this affinity level is going to be a pain in the ass. He has no other choice, so he accepts this quest as well. After accepting the quest, an affinity meter shows up on the head of Sekyung, which indicates he has 15 affinity for Sojun. Sojun is thinking that he will be able to summon another skeleton soldier after filling up that affinity meter. He looks back at his skeleton soldier, who is again giving off that evil smile. Sojun knows that he would have already died without this skeleton soldier of the young cult leader, and if he can get his hands on another skeleton soldier, it will be of great help to him in the future. Sojun tells her that he is quite happy now that he can head toward the academy with her. Sekyung happily says that she is the one who should be saying that. They keep on heading toward their next destination while Sekyung asks her a lot of questions about his companion and his sect. Sojun tells her that he is his escort and he likes to be wrapped up in a blanket, plus he informs her that he belongs to a small, nameless sect. Sekyung keeps on pestering him with questions like what type of weapons he uses, and Sojun replies by saying that he uses a sword. She keeps on chattering while Sojun is thinking that maybe she put a motor on her mouth because she is blabbering non-stop. But it's still worth listening to her since it helps the affinity level go up, and it's currently on 52. After some time, Kim Sojun hears a rustle voice from the woods. Sojun thinks maybe he heard it wrong as Sekyung is roasting his brain with her constant chattering. After a few seconds, a lot of daggers are shot at Sekyung. The daggers get stabbed and a little bit of blood spurts out. Sekyung is alright as Sojun blocked the daggers with his body. Sekyung asks him why did he saved her, and Sojun asks him a counter question if she is alright. Sekyung is quite happy as she informs him that she is alright. Kim Sojun makes a cool face as he tells her that it's a relief. This makes her affinity level directly jump up to 100. The system notifies him that one skeleton slot has been awarded to him for completing the side quest. Sojun signs as he barely made it out alive, because all the dagger got struck on his skeleton part. At the same time, a few assassins march toward both of them. One of the assassins says if he had fallen down after that hit, they would not have to unnecessarily waste their energy. Their leader says that he is their senior in the murim world, that's why he didn't want to fight against his juniors. Sekyung unsheathes her blade and she asks them about their identity. Last time Sojun protected her, that's why she is trying to protect him this time. The leader of assassins asks her if she is Dan Sekyung, the daughter of Gansu's Dan clan. Sekyung asks them about how they knew of her identity. The assassins start laughing without replying back to her. Sekyung gets ready to fight them because talking seems to be out of option. With that said, she leaps toward them. While rushing, she performs Dan Clan's secret arts called Sun Moon Sword Technique. She performs first technique called Sunset Strike. The assassin leader is about to get hit, but he is not reacting to it. He easily manages to dodge the Sunset Strike by moving to the side. He then leaps on the side. He then whispers to her that she should not look down upon her seniors. The assassin leader kicks her in the stomach. Without wasting any time, she leaps away from him. She then uses her second move called Moonlight Reversal. The assassin says that her move is not complete, and she could have gotten him if she had thrusted a little bit deeper. He then catches her by the throat. He squeezes her neck and the sword drops from her hand, making her unconscious. Sojun tells him that he has seen enough, and he should stop right there. Both assassin and Sojun do a standoff. The assassin throws her away as he tells Sojun that he could have lived if he pretended to be dead after getting stabbed by the daggers. He starts moving towards Sojun along with his men, and he tells him to not hold any grudges as these things are common occurrences in the murim. Initially, Kim Sojun was taken aback by this place called murim, because people here greet each other with swords while regarding other people's lives to be worthless than a fly. However, this sensation gave him a sense of freedom after decades of being bounded by the law. In situations like these, there is no need to hesitate to use violence, unlike in the past. Sojun tells Skeleton Soldier that it's his time to shine. Skeleton Soldier starts moving toward them while repeating a word, "Gol Gol." The assassin leader orders his men to kill them both, so there will be no one left alive to tell what happened here. The assassins leap toward the Skeleton Soldier while he performs a thrust attack on them. One of the assassins is about to jump on the Skeleton Soldier, but when he looks into his eyes, he sees no emotion because he is a mere skeleton. The Skeleton Soldier thrusts his sword upwards and he manages to cut the assassin in half. The cockiness on the faces of his comrades fades away as they think they are up against a martial master. Now they have no other choice left but to pincer him. One of the assassins throws a chain attached to a scythe. The chain wraps around the Skeleton Soldier, making him immobile. The other assassins start rushing toward him and they pierce his body with their swords. The Skeleton Soldier is still laughing non-stop. The assassins think that their stab just felt like they pierced through the air. Sojun, who is standing back, is thinking that they will lose at this rate. All of a sudden, he gets an idea. While the assassins are busy in dealing with Skeleton Soldier, he heads towards the assassin who is cut in half. He tries to summon that dead assassin as his new skeleton. A bright light emits from the dead assassin, which grabs the attention of others. The half-cut body of the assassin gets attached back in its place. As he tries to get up, his skin starts shedding and he slowly turns into a skeleton. He looks back at them while giving off a loud, evil laughter, which can be heard from afar. Sojun gets a notification that he will get a fraction of the power of this second summon, and he can cancel it at any time. The other assassins can't believe that their younger brother came back to life. Sojun orders him to kill them all and he starts leaping toward the other assassins. The skeleton prepares to use a Void Fist attack. He attacks them with Void Fist, but they manage to dodge it in time. The leader of assassins tells them that he is not their younger brother, as no one can live after getting torn into two pieces. He informs his men that he maybe came back to life using black arts. The grip on the first Skeleton Soldier became weaker, so he easily burst through their trap. Without wasting any time, he cuts off the head of one of the assassins using a sword swing attack. Another assassin is about to attack him from behind, but he gets punched from behind by second Skeleton Soldier. The assassins cannot keep up with the two skeletons and they are getting pushed back quite hard. Their leader is standing still and he still cannot take in all the weird stuff happening in front of him. After some time, all of his men die and he becomes more depressed. Both skeletons manage to take care of them in a few minutes. He runs toward the unconscious Sakyung because securing goods is the priority. He only grabs a pouch she was carrying and he starts running away from the battlefield. All he needs to accomplish this mission is inside this little pouch. But out of nowhere, the Skeleton Soldier catches up to him. The assassin leader makes a depressed face as he knows what is about to come next. The Skeleton Soldier stabs him again and again until signs of life fade from his eyes. Meanwhile, on the other side, Sojun places Sakyung under a tree. The Skeleton Soldier returns while repeating the same word, "Gol Gol." He shows the bag to Sojun, which the assassins were after. Sojun is thinking what can be inside this bag for those bastards to go after a kid. He gives off a grin smile after thinking that there can't be a treasure in it. Without wasting any time, he opens up the pouch, and there seems to be a box inside of it. The box has a lot of engraving, which indicates it must contain something precious. Without wasting any time, Sojun opens up the box, but his expression changes after seeing the contents of the box. It turns out there is a smartphone inside of it. He is confused as to what a smartphone is doing in this medieval world. It looks like the latest model from the Apple, and there is a little crack on it. Sakyung wakes up while he is thinking about why Sakyung had it on her. After watching the smartphone in the hands of Sojun, she asks him to quickly hand it over to her. She gets up her sword and she tells him that she don't want to point the sword toward her benefactor. Sojun tells her that he has a few questions and if she can answer them, he will return it to her. She gives him a go-ahead to ask the questions. He first asks her about the people who attacked them. She tells him that she has no idea who they were as there are many people aiming for their clan's treasure. Then, he asks her about the treasure in his hand. She tells him that it's her family heirloom, and she don't know much details about it, but she is sure it can be used someday. Sojun is confused as to why people are having smartphones as their family heirlooms in this backward world. Sojun is thinking that maybe he should give it back to her for now because the quest can't fail if things go bad. He hands over the smartphone box to her and she quickly takes it from his hands. So-kyung starts apologizing to him for her bad behavior as she pointed out her sword toward her benefactor. The sun starts rising up and they look up to it. Suddenly, she shouts out that they are late. She further informs him that if they don't make it to the academy before sunrise, their admission will be cancelled. Sojun is thinking that if he fails this quest, he will be forced to live as a skeleton for the rest of his life. Sojun tells her to hurry up, but she cannot move because of an injury in her feet. She tells him to move ahead and she will follow after him. Sojun comes back to her as she knows her admission will be cancelled if she can't make it in time. He picks her up and tells her that they should complete this task together as classmates. With that said, both of them start moving toward the academy. After some time, there are a few martial artists stationed outside the academy. Lee Chan, who is the student council leader, says that it is about time, but the other one informs him that 2 people have still not arrived yet. Lee informs him that the rule is to close the door at dawn, and there is no mercy for those who are late from the first day. With that said, they start closing the gates. The gates are about to be closed when they hear someone call them from afar. It turns out to be Sojun and Se-kyung, who barely made it before the gates closed. A martial artist informs him that there are 2 people outside, but Lee tells him to close the gate anyway. Both of them start begging them to stop as the gates are about to close. Lee yells at them to go back as they are already too late. Se-kyung replies to him that the sun has not fully risen yet. Lee yells back at them that it's up to him to decide. Se-kyung says they got late because they had an unforeseen situation and she will explain everything to him. Lee tells them that everything has a reason and there is no one without personal circumstances in the murim. Sojun is thinking that this quest will fail if he can't enter the academy. Sojun shouts at him that they should do a one-on-one and whoever wins will do as he pleases. After hearing the word fight, Lee opens up the gate and he asks Sojun if he really wants to fight. Sojun mocks him by saying that they can do something else if he's not feeling good for a fight. This makes Lee angry and he opens up both gates with his bare hands. He heads toward both of them and he applauds Sojun for his spirit. 7-strike swordsman Lee Chan is a promising talent who attracted everyone's attention the moment he entered the academy. Lee Chan introduces himself to both of them as he agrees to Sojun's proposal. It turns out Se-kyung knows about this 7-strike swordsman and Sojun inquires about him. Se-kyung tells him that there are a lot of rumors about him stating that he is quite strong. Lee Chan tells them that he will let them in if they can take 5 of his hits. Se-kyung is thinking that up against the 7-strike swordsman, even 3 hits are too much. Her ankle is in a bad situation and Lee Chan keeps mocking them. Kim Sojun gets ready for the brawl and he tells him to not go back on his words. Sojun is thinking of using the skeleton soldier to fight instead, but Lee informs him that he will have to fight by himself without using his escort. This shocks Sojun as he got exposed. Lee was just making a guess, but now he shuns Sojun for using his escort as a personal spar. Without having any choice, Sojun asks the skeleton soldier to hand him the sword. Sojun then gets ready for the fight. Without wasting any time, Lee rushes at him with his full force. The pressure Lee is exerting is so much that Sojun can barely stand on his ground. Lee yells out that he will crush him as he swings his sword imbued with energy toward him. Sojun swings his sword toward him as well. Both of their swords clash with each other, which results in Sojun getting thrown away into the distance. Sojun falls away from Lee and he's feeling a bit ashamed. Lee tells him that Sojun survived 1 hit from him. Sojun gets up to continue the spar, but his whole body is trembling from that last clash. Sojun is thinking that at this rate, he won't be able to block the next attack. A system message appears which informs him that he will get a fraction of power from his summoned skeleton soldier. A bright light containing some of the skills of the skeleton soldier start moving upward. All of that power gets absorbed by Sojun. No one else can see this transfer of power and Lee thinks he's getting distracted during a fight, so he goes for the second attack. This time Lee is more faster than before, but Sojun manages to block his attack and he leaps toward Lee to kick him. Lee's a bit taken aback by this, but he manages to block his attack with his arm. After receiving the kick, Lee gets a bit pushed back and Sojun informs him that he survived 2 hits by now. Lee tells him that even a snail can put up a fight when he's stepped on. Sojun is thinking that this ability sharing mechanic is quite interesting. Without wasting any time, Lee disappears after telling Sojun to get ready for the 3rd hit. Sojun is trying to find his location but Lee appears right above him. Lee smashes his sword towards Sojun but he cannot feel like he hit anything. Out of nowhere, he swings his sword toward his back and it gets deflected by a sword. Lee cannot find his location because of the smoke cloud around him which formed after his powerful jumping attack. Suddenly, Sojun thrusts his sword toward him which he barely manages to block in time. They both keep on pushing their swords toward each other to best their opponent. After a standstill, both of them jump a bit back. The other martial artists from the academy are amazed after watching a new student go toe-to-toe up against the student council president. Lee Chan can hear their voices, which makes him even more pissed. Lee says that he will take Sojun serious from now on and he removes his cloak. He warns Sojun to get ready as things are about to hit the next level. But Sojun asks him about what kind of nonsense he is spouting right now, because he already survived 5 hits from Lee. This makes Lee more angry, but he cannot do anything, so he stands down, and Sojun heads towards Sekyung. Sojun informs her that his duel is done and they should start heading inside. Sekyung is thinking that Sojun is quite amazing because he could hold his ground against the infamous 7-strike swordsman. Lee goes back on his words and he shouts at them to stop. But someone shouts at him to stand back because he has seen enough. The pressure of this man's voice is so great that it makes even Lee to stand down. This person who stopped him is called Professor Baeksa, and he ordered him to let them in. Lee heads back while telling them both to follow him. Sekyung compliments Sojun for surviving the 5 hits from the student council president, and Sojun informs her that he only survived 5 hits and if they had fought for real, he would have easily lost to Lee. Sojun is thinking that this ability sharing skill is so powerful that all of his movements felt natural, as if all those abilities were originally his in the first place. But he is not sure why this incredible ability activated right now when he needed it the most. Professor Baeksa, who is watching them from above, says that young person must have come from that place. He further says that he can feel a wind reeking of the smell of blood, which just started to blow. Finally, Sojun makes it into the academy grounds. He gets a notification that his homecoming quest is complete, and as a reward, the curse of the dead will be cancelled. Sojun removes his mask to find out his body is now back to its 16-year-old normal state. He is quite amazed after watching the academy because it looks a bit modern from the outside. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the academy, a shady person is moving through a dark tunnel. He comes to a stop in front of a spider web. He burns the web using his torch, but the surroundings are getting more dirty and dusty as he is moving forward. Finally, he reaches his destination. He is quite amazed after finding out that the white phantom Rakshasa really exists. The man says that this will be the place where his greatest endeavor starts. He pulls out a bottle from his pouch and throws it toward the Rakshasa. The bottle breaks on the face of the Rakshasa and a liquid pours on its face. The person says that the murim must be purified and their world shall return again. He starts running back as the whole building starts rumbling. The eyes of the Rakshasa start glowing red as his skin begins to depetrify. Meanwhile, in the academy, 2 days have passed since Sojun arrived there. Although it was a slight setback to his plan of living his life comfortably while spending his gold, but after everything he went through, he will not give up on his new life. He will do his best to not do anything and still graduate from this academy. Since he has a lot of gold, so there is no need for him to work hard like others and make a name for himself. This time he will go for the enjoyable route. He closes his eyes to daydream a bit more, but when he wakes up, Professor Baeksa is standing in front of him. Sojun asks him about who he is, and the professor, without replying back to him, says that he must be the new recruit from that place. Sojun is not sure about that place professor is talking about. Sojun thinks to himself that maybe this professor means Korea by that place. He asks the professor if he knows about where he came from. Professor tells him that he thought Sojun was using a mask during his brawl with the student council president, but he could clearly sense inner energy only harnessed by members of that place from him. Now Sojun knows that the professor is talking about the inner energy he borrowed from the first skeleton. Professor introduces himself as Baeksa, a teacher of Venerable Martial Academy. Sojun has no idea why a professor came looking for him, and he makes a guess that maybe he is here because Sojun fought with the student council president. Sojun bows down in respect and he introduces himself to the professor. Professor Baeksa says that it is quite strange because as far as he knows, the leader of that place isn't from the Kim clan or something like that. Sojun gets straight to the point and he asks Professor why he was looking for him. Professor Baeksa laughs out loud and he says that they got a bold new recruit this time. He leaks out a bit of inner energy as he asks Sojun if he's pretending to be mannerless on purpose. Sojun can feel a fierce energy emitting from the professor. His summon ability activates on its own after sensing the killing intent of the professor. He became a bit relaxed after getting the summon energy and he asks the professor about what he is doing. The professor asks him if he didn't felt anything just now, and Sojun informs him that he just felt a bit chilly. The professor compliments him for being talented, and he tells Sojun that the principal is looking for him. Sojun asks why the principal is looking for him, and the professor explains that Venerable Academy's exchange program with that place was approved by the principal, so he must be curious to know about this new student sent from that place. With that said, both of them start moving toward the principal office. They are moving through a jungle, and Sojun is thinking what a place like this is doing in an academy. Professor Baeksa asks Sojun about how is the atmosphere in that place. The professor informs him that orthodox factions and the demonic cult are going to unite after 70 years, so the atmosphere of that place must be changing too. Sojun gets a rough idea of this situation. He is currently in the orthodox faction, and his first skeleton was from the demonic cult. He now gets the whole situation why the young cult leader was attacked, so the enemies could use that excuse to stop the alliance between the orthodox faction and the demonic cult. Now that he knows about it, things have gotten more complicated for him. Professor Baeksa warns him to be careful during his stay at this academy. Sojun thanks him for his advice. Professor Baeksa further informs him that he should go ahead on his own from this point on. While Sojun is moving away, Professor warns him for the last time to not blindly trust the principal. He keeps on moving forward until he reaches a building in the middle of the forest. There is a simple stone sign in front of it with Principal Office written on it. Sojun takes his first step toward the building, but all of a sudden he feels a weird sensation all around him. Sojun is not sure what that weird sensation was just now. A 45-minute system timer appears in front of him. He's not sure what this timer is, so he tries to make it disappear. He hears a sound transmission which tells him to come inside. Sojun heads inside, and his principal is sitting in front of him. The principal of the Venerable Martial Academy is called Jung-ri-tae. The principal says that he must be the child who came from the demonic cult, and he has been waiting for him for a while. Sojun says he's quite sorry and he must have came to greet him right after entering the academy. Principal says that there is no need to apologize. Sojun asks him why did he wanted to meet him. Principal informs him that the people of the Orthodox faction think that people from the demonic cult have horns and they are monsters who drink humans' blood. But there's not much difference between the people from both sides. Principal asks him if what he just said is correct, and Sojun replies with a yes. He further tells Sojun that the people from the Orthodox faction think that they are far superior from the people of the demonic cult. Principal asks him what he thinks about this statement. Sojun simply replies by saying that they are free to think whatever they want. Professor asks him that even if that freedom threatens other people, Sojun says that he is not sure, because there is no way they can strip others of their freedom. The principal starts laughing out loud after hearing it. The principal says that he has a request to ask, and Sojun replies by saying that he hopes if he don't ask for a request though. He further elaborates that the principal of an Orthodox academy asking for a request from a brat of demonic cult is not befitting for someone of his nature. The principal tells him that Sojun needs to become the best student in the academy. Sojun asks him about what is the deal with this best student of the academy. Principal tells him to get the first position and bring down those hypocrites of the Orthodox faction so he can change their minds. At the same time, Sojun receives a sub-quest from the system. He needs to become the best student among all the freshmen and he will receive a special reward after completing this quest. But if he fails to do so, he will again get Curse of the Dead, plus he will lose one of his skeleton slots. Sojun thinks that after everything he went through, if he rejects this side quest, he will lose everything. So he unwillingly accepts the quest from the principal. The principal says that he is quite glad that Sojun accepted this quest. Sojun bows down and he tells the principal to take good care of him. The principal says he is quite humble and he don't know anyone among the Orthodox faction who has good manners like him. With that said, principal tells him to head back. After Sojun leaves the room, he remembers that he forgot to ask him about something he just wrote on the paper. There are Korean alphabets written on the paper which indicates that there is an intervention of people from the human world in this martial world as well. While Sojun is heading back, he again gets that weird sensation for the second time. This time, a 20-minute timer and a directional arrow shows up. Sojun thinks that the arrow is hinting at going in a certain direction. All of a sudden, he gets an idea that maybe it's pointing toward a treasure of sorts and he can get more gold coins. Without thinking much, he starts leaping toward the direction system timer was pointing at. After some time, he arrives at some stairs which lead to a dungeon-type area, and he is thinking that such structures always lead toward treasures. Without a second thought, he starts heading downstairs. At the same time, the person who awakened the Rakshasa was running away from the tunnel and they both clash with each other. The man slips and he falls down into the tunnel. After getting up, he asks Sojun about his identity. He further tells Sojun that this is no place for a student and he must head back. Sojun feels a bit down because the timer just hit 0. After the timer runs out, the whole ground starts rumbling. The person says that it's too late because the white phantom Rakshasa has already awakened. The Rakshasa starts bursting through the narrow tunnel. The person runs for his dear life and the Rakshasa follows after him. Rakshasa attacks him with a fang and the person gets nailed by it. Rakshasa throws away the dead body of the person as he comes face to face with Sojun. Rakshasa gives out a loud roar and he leaps towards Sojun to attack him. Without wasting any time, Kim Sojun uses his summon skill and the second skeleton soldier pops out of the ground. The skeleton soldier prepares to use his void fist attack on the Rakshasa. But his own fist shatters after punching the Rakshasa. This makes Rakshasa more angry and he uses his fang attack on the skeleton soldier. The fang attack shatters half of the skeleton soldier in one hit. Rakshasa once again rushes towards Sojun while gives out a demonic roar.